This is TWiT.
I have to say that I have been bound by non-compete clauses in the past. I'm proud to say we've never used them here, partly because non-compete clauses are illegal in California. But now, thanks to the FTC, they're illegal in the entire country. The FTC banned non-compete agreements that restrict job switching. This is something Silicon Valley has used for years. You go to work for Apple, you'll sign a non-compete that says you can't go across the street to Google or Meta. And what that does is it keeps workers from getting the optimum pay, from getting the best job. The Federal Trade Commission yesterday banned employers from using non-compete contracts to prevent most workers from joining rival firms. Popular with labor, but the Wall Street Journal says it faces an imminent court challenge from business groups. It's the first time in more than 50 years that FTC officials have issued, since Reagan, I believe, since before Reagan, have issued a regulation to mandate an economy-wide change in how companies compete. This is a big change. This is Lena Khan at work. I think it's a great thing. Jeff, explain why a non-compete to keep you from going to another job, from job switching, is a bad thing.
It's a bad thing in a lot of ways in that it limits the employee's ability to be flexible and move around. It keeps wages down because it's harder for companies to try to get you and compete and give you more money because you can't go there. It limits, in journalism, it limits people's voices. You get people who get fired from CNN and they can't go, Brian Stelter can't go anywhere else for a certain amount of time. Of course, because he's also being paid by them for a while. I don't know how this affects severance periods. And it's just simply anti-competitive. And so I'm glad it's gone. Now, that's not the only thing that happens. I also, when I was at Time Inc., I refused to sign the managing editor's contract because I had a non-disparagement clause. And I said, as a journalist, I'm not going to sign a shut-up clause.
Disparagement is my double middle name.
Exactly. So as a result, even though I quit, though they would have been happy to fire me, they wanted me gone, I gave up 3 years salary, bonus, and benefits.
I'm amazed. I mean, we do ask people when they leave to sign a non-disparagement clause, and it's usually contingent. Their severance usually is contingent on that. That's very common. And that takes a lot of
But once
guts
you get
to
the
not
severance,
sign
that's
it.
that.
Right.
Yeah, 3 years. I would have gotten 3 years.
So far, everybody
I
has
believe
signed
actually the if it was not the FTC, another regulatory body recently had a decree that banning specifically that, Leo, tying severance to the signing of non-disparagement.
It's too late. You already signed it. It's too late.
I actually think that.
But I mean, this was like a similar.
I think it voids the past, actually.
Does it void it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Disparage us. Just
talk about how Leo eats sloppy hamburgers.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm a pig.
You can disparage him.
It turns out one of the reasons the FTC could do this is non-compete clauses violate an old law. There's a 110-year-old law that prohibits unfair methods of competition. So it isn't merely them making up a rule. They're enforcing a law that's been on the books for 110 years. But 1 in 5 American workers has a non-compete, specifically that keeps people from working for a competitor. Patrick Delahanty, our engineer, said he used to work for Monster.com and had a non-compete that kept him from working for another job site for 4 years. That's very typical.
4 years.
4 years. That's very typical.
And Patrick didn't get 4 years severance.
No. That was
beyond your severance payment.
He signed that on entry, as these are mostly signed not on leaving, but on as you begin a new job.
Yes.
Sales staff, engineers, doctors, and salon workers are among the most common type of workers affected by these non-compete clauses. The reason is you go to work for a hair salon, and they don't want you to go across the street to another hair salon and take all your clients with you. Yeah. Businesses say, well, this is a good way to protect our intellectual property and our investment in our team. The final rule becomes effective in 4 months. It was literally hours later the 2 lawsuits were filed.
Well, the Wall Street Journal's going bananas on this.
Yeah.
Did you read Mike Masnick's write-up of this in TechDirt, Leo?
Not yet.
No.
What did he say?
I thought this was a really interesting perspective. I mean, he begins this piece by saying, I think the spirit of this law is correct. Non-competes should be banned. I like the FTC's approach. However, let's see.
He doubts their authority to do
basically,
That's what I'm wondering.
No,
yeah.
Specifically, what he's saying is that it looks like this is being positioned to challenge, like that people have already filed a 570-page lawsuit within hours of this decree being dropped.
That was good. They worked on that fast. Must have used ChatGPT.
Very shortly after the new rule dropped, long before anyone could possibly read the 570 pages, a Texas-based tax service company also filed the lawsuit. The 570 pages, I guess, is the lawsuit. Is the
FTC
the
rule.
timing, the location, and the lawyers all suggest that this was clearly planned out. The case was filed in northern Texas. The law firm filing the case is Gibson Dunn, which is one of the law firms you choose when you're planning to go to the Supreme Court. One of the lawyers is Gene Scalia, son of late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
It's all just a
Also, their general counsel clerked for Alito and is married to someone who clerked for Alito and Thomas. Wow.
It doesn't just seek to block the rule. It's basically looking to destroy what limited authority the FTC has.
So
the main crux of the argument is on more firm legal footing, Masnick writes, claiming that the rule goes far beyond the FTC's rulemaking authority. So it's a really interesting piece that Mike writes up because it says that this all seems to be kind of heading towards a collision course for the FTC and people looking to weaken its power.
FTC, by overreaching, or this is what the lawsuits claim, is demonstrating why they shouldn't be allowed to do anything, that it should be an act of Congress, not the FTC, that decides these kinds of things. And so Mike's concern is that this will actually undermine the FTC's authority in a broad way. In fact, the complaint says the FTC is unconstitutionally structured. The commission itself is unconstitutionally structured because it's insulated from presidential oversight. This just gives the Supreme Court, this is totally an opportunity to get the Supreme Court in on this and say, you know what, you're right. The Constitution vests executive power in the president, not the commission or its commissioners. The FTC Act,
part of the executive branch,
insulates the commissioners from presidential control by restricting the president's ability to remove them, shielding their actions from appropriate political accountability. By the way,
let's get rid of the postmaster.
FCC is also run this way, by the way.
The lawsuit is basically attempting to say that all independent agencies are unconstitutional. This is one hell of a claim, writes Mesnick, and would do some pretty serious damage to the ability of the U.S. government to function. Things that weren't that political before would become political, and it would be a pretty big mess.
Once again, they're trying to destroy the institutions.
Sounds like the Federalist Society. That's who's doing this.
Doesn't
I mean... Yeah, this has Fed Society, FedSoc all over it.
So if you're a conspiracy-minded person, you might say I don't believe Lena Khan and the FTC would participate in this. I think that she is genuinely motivated by a desire to make the world better for workers and for all of us. But unfortunately, she is played into the hands of people.
She's politically naive.
Maybe she is. She's played into the hands of people. And the 3-2 Democratic majority on the FTC have played in the hands of people who would not merely want to preserve the non-compete, but in fact would want to eliminate these independent agencies entirely. No FTC, no FCC. I imagine there are a few other environmental regulatory commissions they would like to get rid of as well.
Yeah. And as Mike points out, it's happening at a time when the Supreme Court majority has made it pretty clear that dismantling the entire administrative state is something that it really looks forward to doing.
Mike is so good.
Mike is great.
Mike says non-compete should be banned. The end result of this rule could be they end up being used more widely. And that would really suck. Okay, well, we'll watch with interest. Maybe premature celebration. Hey, it's Leo Laporte. Hope you enjoyed this little snippet from our show This Week in Google. For the full show, you can either go to our website, twit.tv/twig, or find Twig in your favorite podcast client. And, of course, there's links right below, somewhere down there, for more information.